She sat across from me at the small cafe where we always met, her fingers absently curling a strand of her hair. It was a habit I had come to recognize, a quiet signal that her mind was uneasy. Even before she spoke, something about her seemed different. Her smile barely lingered, her eyes darted anywhere but at mine. We had shared nearly 3 years together, with ups and downs like any couple, but nothing that had prepared me for what was coming. Without warning, she lifted her gaze and said with startling clarity, "I went on a date last night with someone else." Time seemed to stop. For a moment, I wondered if I had misunderstood, but her calmness told me otherwise. She explained, even casually, his name, that they met through work, how they laughed over dinner. Her tone wasn't apologetic, it was deliberate, as though she wanted to measure how much I could take. There was no trace of shame in her face. It felt less like a confession and more like a test. I held her stare for a moment before reaching for my coffee. Slowly, I took a sip, nodded once, and replied, "Thanks for being honest. I hope he treats you better than I did." My calmness seemed to catch her off guard. She froze, lips parted, clearly unprepared for anything less than an emotional eruption. "That's it?" she asked, incredulous. "You're not angry? You don't want to know why?" I leaned back in my chair, pain tightening in my chest, but I refused to show it. "I don't fight for a place where I'm not wanted," I told her quietly. "If you felt the need to be with someone else, then we ended long before this conversation. I just hadn't realized it." Her composure wavered. For the first time that afternoon, doubt flickered across her face. She stumbled through excuses, saying she hadn't intended for things to go that far, that she was confused, that she only wanted clarity. But her words sounded hollow. She might have thought she was being brave, but to me, it felt cruel. I finished my drink, stood, and told her, "I wish you the best. You've made your decision, and I'm simply respecting it." Regret began to shadow her expression, but I didn't linger long enough to watch it grow. I walked away, and for once, she was the one left behind, watching someone leave without hesitation. That evening, I went to her apartment and gathered what little I had left there. I didn't take the photographs, the notes, or the gifts. I left those behind, knowing that their silence would remind her of me far more than my presence ever could. Weeks passed. She reached out first with short messages, then long, desperate emails, explaining it was a mistake, that the date meant nothing, that she missed what we had. I never answered. Not because of resentment, but because peace had finally returned to my life. I turned my energy inward, reviving old hobbies, reconnecting with friends, rediscovering parts of myself I had neglected. Her absence wasn't an emptiness, it was a space where calm could finally settle. Through friends, I eventually learned the man she had gone out with disappeared from her life after only a few weeks. She had expected something lasting, but instead found herself with nothing. She lost what she already had, and by the time she realized it, it was too late. Looking back, I am grateful I didn't lose control or beg her to stay. Sometimes strength lies not in confrontation but in restraint. My silence carried a weight words could never match. She had tried to wound me with her revelation, but instead, she revealed her own loss. She had expected me to crumble. Instead, she lost someone who had truly cared.